Good morning, everyone. Thomas Fleming here. Well, it's a nice, pleasant morning, but it's still cold, so I've still got my jacket on. I prefer to film in the morning because the lighting is better. The sun's right behind in the afternoon and it's real hot, so endure the cold even longer. The problem is that the north is still freezing or cold. I mean, it hasn't been that long since they got snow up along the Great Lakes area. And there's a big circulation going on. It's taking all that cold air and bringing it all the way down into Georgia. So we're in the 40s again. This is May 2nd. We're in the 40s in the morning. All right. My title for today is, Did We Miss the Rapture? You look around and you see that things are not nice out there. The beginning part of the tribulation, things start. They start getting bad. Now we got to be careful that we're not confused like the Thessalonians were, who thought they missed the rapture. Because again, things were not nice back then. Frankly, they're not bad enough yet to have missed the rapture, but we're going to look to try to answer that question. How do we know whether we've missed the rapture or not? There are people asking that question now. There are people saying that we missed it. Well, there was someone that wrote a letter to the Thessalonians claiming to be Paul, telling them that they missed the rapture. So we had to correct them. What do we know? What are the signs of the times that we need to look at? Okay, well, I'm just going to point out some things here about the United States and our current situation. They're telling us that, we have a little bit of inflation. It's not going to be too bad. Have you been to the market lately? They're lying through their teeth. They don't even have to hide it anymore. They just come right out and tell a bald-faced lie, and there's nobody to call them on it. Tucker Carlson's gone from Fox. Fox is now completely, in my opinion, gone to the left. I don't recommend them anymore at all. Go out and find all the people that left Fox, like Glenn Beck or Megyn Kelly or any of these other ones. They're the ones, if you can find them, that's the ones you want to listen to. I personally recommend Glenn Beck, and I've started following Megyn Kelly now too. Because they've got their own channels, they're getting very blunt about attacking the left. They don't have to watch what they say because they're not being policed by Murdoch or any of the other people that are up there. The 30-20 reverse the number agenda is in full motion. Our current president is an alumni of their school. There are alumni all over the world. They're fighting in Paris, rioting. The president over there is an alumni in Canada. Their behavior. Their president is an alumni of that organization. King Charles is an alumni of that organization, the One World Government Organization. I still got to be careful what I say so I don't get censured, but the bottom line is we're moving in that direction very fastly. Are we past the point? They're going to still be around in the tribulation. They're going to go into the tribulation. They're setting up the world for the Antichrist, who's going to take over at the beginning of the tribulation sometime. We know that when the Antichrist comes on the scene, there's going to be chaos in Israel. Have you read the news lately? There's chaos in Israel. Because he's going to come up with their 7-year peace plan. So again, did we miss the rapture? Well, as a Christian, I say, I hope not. And as a teacher, I say, no, but it can't be very far away. Okay, so we talked about this. In the United States, we have massive inflation, despite what the news says. Then they say, well, we might have a recession. It won't last long and we'll recover from it. They're feeding us enough information so that we don't worry, because if we think they know what they're talking about, we won't worry. At least the majority of the people that watch the controlled media. Then they say, well, it is possible if the recession lasts long enough, we might have a depression. We've had inflation, we've had recession, and we've had depression before, if you go back to 1929. It wasn't pleasant, but we survived it. So all those things, if they keep repeating them over and over again, then the people are going to go, well, it might get a little tough, but the government's going to save us, which is what the government wants them to believe. What they don't tell you is that we're heading for a complete monetary collapse of the dollar. Why? Because it's been the monetary control for the rest of the world. Up until recently, Saudi Arabia wouldn't sell their oil to anybody unless they paid for it with dollars. That's over. Our dollar is getting ready to collapse. The World Bank is keeping it afloat right now because they're not quite ready to pull the cord on that, but it's imminent. We're going to have a collapse, and the reason for it is we're going to have to, there's no other way. We have to go to digital dollars. Yeah. One world government, one world currency. One world big government watching every move you make. And eventually, with the Antichrist, when he takes over, you can't buy or sell without the mark of the beast. The only way to do that is with one monetary system. Now, it has to be in effect for a little while to make sure they get the bugs out of it. So we've got to get this going pretty quickly. So I don't think I think this year is going to be the end of the dollar. And potentially the rapture. Can't give you a date. I wish I could. So we're looking at a complete collapse of our government dollar. Everything's going to completely collapse. We're not going to be involved in world events. The countries are aligning now for either the Psalm 83 war or the Magog war. We don't know timing on any of this stuff. That's the problem. But they're all aligning now. Sudan's in the middle of switching to the side that matches prophecy. They've been on the side that doesn't match prophecy until this little civil war coup thing going on. When this flips, then all the countries that match prophecy will be in alignment. We are there, but we're not into the tribulation yet. We were told that there would be birth pains. Jesus said this before all this stuff starts to happen. Now, he's talking about the tribulation time frame in his second coming in the Olivet Discourse. He might allude a little bit to the rapture. There's some different points of view on that when it talks about one taken, one left behind. But that can happen also at the end of the tribulation when the gathering together. So we're not really sure. I don't personally think he was talking about anything to do with the rapture. Jesus is talking about his second coming, in my opinion. Paul, on the other hand, was talking all about the rapture, because the rapture is for the church. And we're in the church age, and it's winding down. That's who the rapture's for, not the second coming. The Jews didn't care about a rapture. They didn't want to know anything about it. They wanted the Lion of Judah to come back and kick the Romans out. And it's ironic that the Antichrist is a descendant of the Romans coming back to get them again. Satan has his ways. He's very unique in the fact that he doesn't change his spots from hating God and hating man. God doesn't change either, so we don't have to worry about Satan, because God doesn't like what Satan does. Okay, so we've got some scriptures to look at here, so let me open up my Bible, and we're going to turn to 2 Thessalonians 2:6. And we know Paul, when he was there in Thessalonica, he taught everybody, of course, the gospel. That's why the church was established there. But he told them about the end times. Paul was looking for the rapture. They knew that they were in the last days. They were. From their point of view, from God's point of view, they were in the last days. They were finishing up the 69th week when Jesus rode into town in Jerusalem. Now, they didn't understand the gap. We don't understand the gap fully. But there's the Gentile gap, the church gap of roughly 2,000 years. So we're heading to that now. We're heading out of that, I should say. We're heading into the 70th week, which is the last 7 years. I've talked about it before. Heptads are equivalent of a dozen, but only with sevens. So we're heading into that. So Paul wrote him a letter after he got back to remind him of the things that he told him in 1 Thessalonians. And then somebody writes them a fake letter. Who is the father of lies? So somebody working for the other side wrote a fake letter telling them that they missed the rapture. Things were bad. The Romans were upfront about killing Christians. Come on down to the Colosseum. We got popcorn and everything you need to enjoy the tearing apart of Christian limbs and watching them be mutilated by various beasts. And they had lions and they had tigers and bears, oh my. It was not a good time. You had Roman leaders wanting to eliminate Christians, specifically. If they can get a Jew in there too, they didn't care, but they basically wanted to eliminate the Christian church because it was pulling people away from their religion. We have all these gods' religion. Paul snuck in and said he's the unknown God, but that unknown God was pulling people away from the other gods. Fake religion. Okay, so anyhow, Paul has to write him a second letter, 2 Thessalonians, to explain to him you really didn't miss the rapture. These are just perilous times. In this life you will have tribulation. And I'm sure Paul was disappointed when he realized that he didn't make the rapture. Towards the end of his life, when he was dying, he said, I've run the race. And he did. Okay, so we're looking at 2 Thessalonians 2:6. I'm going to start it with 5. Paul writing, do you remember that when I was still with you, I told you these things? Reminding him of what he'd already told him when he was with them and in the letter. And now you know what is restraining, that he may be revealed in his own time. We're restraining the Antichrist. For the mystery of lawlessness is already at work. Only he who now restrains will do so until he's taken out of the way, and the lawless one will be revealed. Which goes to show you right there, we cannot know who the Antichrist is. We will be gone. We have to be out of the way before he can be revealed. So we cannot be in the tribulation because the Antichrist basically starts that time frame. Now there may be a little bit of a gap between when we go and when he comes on the scene, but the world's ripe for it. All these events that we have told about the future could happen at any moment. And if we have the rapture, we're not even going to be aware of it. We're just going to be, boom, instantaneously transported up to Jesus in the clouds. I'm not exactly sure how that's going to look, whether we're going to feel ourselves lifting up or whether we're just going to wake up. Maybe we think we're dreaming. I don't know. But instantly changed, instantly with the Lord. And then we're out of the way. However many Christians happen to be left on the earth at this time, there's a major falling away. But once a Christian, always a Christian. You can't remove that if you were truly a Christian. So it's either 500 million, a billion, I don't know, whatever it is, 2 billion. There are varying numbers of how many Christians on the earth. We got 8 billion people. We have enough that if this wasn't prophesied, we could change the world and put it right back to where it needs to be. But that's not our goal, and that's another reason why we have the rapture. We're not supposed to convert the world. Whoever's left, there'll be a few that are still part of the book of life, but the rest of the world has to be given a chance, multiple chances, to accept Christ. And in the end, they won't. But they can't say they weren't given a chance. Okay. Just as a reminder of what we're supposed to do while we're waiting. Finally, brethren, pray for us. I'm in chapter 3, verse 1. Pray for us that the word of the Lord may run swiftly and be glorified, just as it is with you, and that we may be delivered from unreasonable and wicked men, for not all have faith. No duh. But the Lord is faithful, who will establish you and guard you from the evil one. And we have confidence in the Lord concerning you, both that you do and will do things we command you. Now may the Lord direct your hearts into the love of God and into the patience of Christ. In verse 6, but we command you, brethren, in the name of the Lord Jesus Christ, that you withdraw from every brother who walks disorderly and not according to the tradition which he received from us. Stay away from bad people. This is not the time to be running around with bad people. You have to go to them and present the gospel, yes, but don't hang out with them. You can go to a bar to reach people, but don't sit there and get drunk with them. Use your head. There's a commentary down here I wanted to read, talking about Thessalonians 3, 6 through 15. What would you do if you knew Jesus would come back tomorrow? What about the next week or the next month? Human nature indicates that if we knew the world was going to end in the next 24 hours, even in the next 30 days, we'd be less likely to get up for work in the morning. After all, what's the point of working and planning if we are headed to heaven in a few days? He doesn't want us to shut down. He wants us to be in full gear. Pedal to the metal. Let's get out there and get this word out. It's not time to sit back and be idle. That's what some Thessalonians believe. They were convinced Jesus would return, and that could happen any time. That was good, but because they believed that, they essentially stopped working. And that was a problem. Paul's rule was straightforward and simple. If anyone will not work, neither shall he eat. If you can't follow God's rules, there's a consequence. Yes, expect the Lord's imminent return, but continue to function as part of the church and the community. If they couldn't do that, then they didn't deserve local friendships or outside support. The Thessalonians needed a proper balance between working and waiting. They need to avoid anyone who walks disorderly. We just read that. Some folks couldn't work, and that was a different matter. But those who could needed to work, or they needed to face the consequences for laziness. That's a commentary. Okay, so what's coming if this is the case? How will we know if the tribulation has started. Well, we won't unless we miss it. And some will miss it. And I may unfortunately have some watching this video that think they're Christians and they're not. We know about that. There are many offshoots of Christianity out there that are not going to be going in the rapture because they're not true Christians. They believe a lot of the teachings about Jesus, except for the fact of giving their life to him. There will be many Christians born during the tribulation. So these pseudo-Christians will go into the tribulation and get another chance. How do we know? What's the truest sign? Well, Revelation 6. Now I saw when the Lamb opened one of the seals, the Lamb being Jesus, in heaven, and I heard one of the four living creatures saying with a voice like thunder, "Come and see." And I looked, and behold, a white horse. And he who sat on it had a bow, and a crown was given to him, and he went out conquering and to conquer. He's not actually creating war, he's just actually conquering, which means, and he's only got a bow, he's going to bring unity to the world. This Antichrist is going to unify the world. He's going to use the harlot system that she's putting together, the one world government. He's going to use that. And at some point in time, he'll eliminate the harlot because he doesn't want competition. And he will do his thing, and he will bring peace in the Middle East. It's fake peace. We know that. But they don't, because they don't read the Bible, especially the New Testament. But why would you think that this is only from the New Testament? Because they don't know the Old Testament either. If they knew the Old Testament, they would have recognized Jesus when he was here. So let's take a look at Daniel 9:27. Well, I'm actually going to go back to 25. So Daniel 9:25. Know therefore and understand that from the going forth of the command to restore and build Jerusalem until the Messiah the Prince, there shall be 7 weeks and 62 weeks. Until the Messiah the Prince. Until Jesus. So 69 weeks from the reestablishment of Jerusalem from their Babylonian exile until Jesus rides into town on the donkey. That's 69 weeks. Then it stops. The street shall be built again and the wall, even in troubled times. And after 62 weeks, having the first 7 weeks and then the 62 weeks added to it, the Messiah shall be cut off. He will be crucified. We know that. This is all happening. It's happened already, and so we know about it. But not for himself. And the people of the prince who is to come shall destroy the city and the sanctuary. The people of the prince who is to come, the Roman Empire, destroyed the temple in 70 AD. And the end of it shall be with a flood until the end of the war, and desolations are determined. Jumping into the tribulation a little bit. Then he shall confirm a covenant, talking about the prince, with many for 1 week. Heptad again, 7 years. And he shall bring But in the middle of the week, in the middle of the tribulation, he shall bring an end to sacrifice and offering, and on the wing of abomination shall be the one who desolates, even until the consummation which is determined is poured out on the desolate. So basically, the Antichrist is coming, and we know that. We just read about it also in Revelation. So what's coming has all been prophesied. And we're not in the tribulation yet. We can't be because we're still here. And that's your clue. Remember what Paul said to the Thessalonians. All right, I ran out of memory on my memory stick. I just had to delete some files so I can finish this. I was finished. I didn't have anything more to say. I just didn't want to leave it on that last statement. The good news is that we don't have to worry about a thing. Jesus is telling all this stuff, and we're told every time we're told about the future, don't worry, I have overcome the world. And he knows the beginning to the end. He knows everything that's going to happen. And if we're staying next to him, nothing's going to happen to us. If we're off doing our own thing, good luck. All right. Lord willing, today I'm going to go color my hair, get ready for this next film I'm doing. I keep saying that. I keep putting it off because I don't like cold. And the water takes so long to heat up in the bathroom here because it's so long from the hot water heater. I have to go in there and start it up an hour before I go in there, it seems like. All right. So I'm going to change my look, but I'm going to still be here. I'll look more like my picture, I think. My hair's not long enough yet. It's still growing. I haven't cut it in a while. I've trimmed, obviously, but got to change my appearance, but that won't change the message. Still be ready. Looking towards my son getting here in a few days. It's not a moving day, but I'll be traveling to the airport, which is a little over an hour away, and then an hour back after he gets in. So he'll probably get out by 8 o'clock to the steps, to the concrete outside. So I'll be back about 9. I got to run to my storage unit one more time to get a couple of things I forgot for him. And one thing that I got to get him his right sleeping bag. I got the wrong sleeping bag. I grabbed one of mine because they're both red, so I got to take my marker with me and mark everything. All right. So I'm still doing my normal thing. Still getting the message out. Still carrying a bug-out bag in my car. Keep busy. Don't sit down yet. There'll be plenty of time to rest when this is over. Till we meet in the clouds. Okay, a little ending video of my location. Nice peaceful river right now. It's up a little bit from the rain a few days ago, but it's not too bad. Just walking along the campsites here. Get out and enjoy this. I see squirrels, but that's all I see. The weather's not quite warm enough for most of the critters to get out in the morning. Cut through this site. You've seen this before, but if you're new, these state parks are set up for you to get out and enjoy the nature. They maintain them, keep them clean. There's no excuse, and you can go out for a weekend. You don't have to stay long. You can go out for a day if you're close enough to one. And if you don't want to sleep in a tent, they have Adirondacks, yurts as they're called, and you can actually rent a house. A little more expensive. I have the cheapest way. And I enjoy it, so don't worry about me. If they give me a house to stay in, I'd still rather be in a tent. Okay, I'm out in the parking lot. This is the public area, which is available for anybody for just a small parking fee. It's $5 a day. And if you get to where you want to do this a lot, and like me, a senior, I just renewed my annual pass for free parking at all the state parks. Cost me $20. So I'm good until next May. you could enjoy this scenery if you just come on out. All right, blessings everybody.